The sound wasn't what startled me. It was the silence that followed. A sharp clink of glass hitting ceramic. Then nothing. No gasps, no apologies, no movement. Just silence. I looked down. A splash of amber had bled across the bodice of my white dress, soaking into the delicate lace like a stain that would never wash out. Across the table, the whiskey glass lay sideways in the appetizer tray, half cracked, still vibrating faintly from impact. My brother-in-law, Travis, stood there, face flushed, hands clenched, his eyes burning, not with regret, but with something closer to satisfaction. I didn't say a word. I didn't even blink. I just sat there, holding the same wine glass I'd raised a few seconds earlier in a toast to our future. Around us, the clatter of silverware faded. The waiter had stopped mid-step. Dylan's hand was still on the base of his cocktail. My mother-in-law's lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Travis turned, muttered something under his breath, and stormed off into the night. It was supposed to be a celebration, the final note to a day I'd dreamed of since I was a teenager. A soft-lit dinner, laughter echoing across the table, wine and warmth shared between two newly joined families. Instead, it ended with a shattered glass, a stained dress, and a gaping hole of tension no one dared step into. And the worst part wasn't the mess, or the silence, or even the stain. It was the realization that no one followed him. No one said anything. No one stood up and said, "This is not okay." Not even my husband. As I sat there, wine drying on my chest, the weight of that silence felt heavier than the glass ever could. It wrapped around me like a second skin, whispering truths I didn't want to hear. This wasn't just an accident. It was a message, a warning. And deep down, I knew this night would haunt me far longer than the wedding photos ever would. I met Travis the same night Dylan introduced me to his parents. We were still just dating then, 8 months in, giddy and nervous, that stage where you overthink everything from your handshake to your laughter. Dylan assured me it would go great. "My family's chill," he said. "Travis might be a little much, but you'll see he's harmless." We arrived 15 minutes early. Travis showed up nearly an hour late. He walked into the restaurant with no apology, sunglasses still on despite it being nearly 8 p.m., and the faint scent of alcohol trailing behind him like cologne. His shirt was wrinkled, one button undone too many, and he had this smug grin that made me feel instantly small. "So this is the girl who finally tamed my little brother," he said, like I was a dare someone had one. Dylan chuckled. His mom smiled nervously. His dad avoided eye contact altogether. I tried to give Travis the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he had a rough day. Maybe this was just his way of joking. But the way he talked over people, the way he casually dropped stories about getting fired, again because his boss was a control freak, the way he bragged about quitting his last job without notice because he didn't vibe with the culture. It wasn't charming. It wasn't quirky. It was unsettling. After he left, I turned to Dylan. "Is he always like that?" I asked cautiously. "He's just going through a phase," Dylan said, brushing it off. "He's been trying to figure himself out since the pandemic. You know how it is." I didn't, but I nodded anyway. Later that night, in the car, I asked if Travis would be involved in the wedding. Should we ever get to that point? Dylan hesitated. Then he laughed. "Of course. He's family." That word, family. I'm not sure I understood its weight back then, or the quiet warning it carried. Because when people say he's family, what they often mean is, "We've forgiven him too many times to stop now." And what they never say out loud is, "You'll be expected to do the same." 3 weeks before the wedding, I found out Travis had once ruined someone else's. It wasn't in a dramatic retelling, no confessions, no family lore. I overheard it accidentally during a coffee run with Dylan's cousin Anna. We were picking out flower samples when she joked, "At least this time Travis won't be blackout drunk and swearing at the priest." I stopped. "What?" She blinked. "Wait, no one told you? At Alicia's wedding?" He got so wasted during the rehearsal dinner, he picked a fight with the groom's dad and tried to sing karaoke in the middle of the vows. They had to crop him out of every photo. Honestly, I thought he wouldn't even be invited to yours. My stomach dropped. That night, I brought it up with Dylan. Calmly, carefully. I think we need to talk about Travis, I said. I'm not comfortable with him being around for all the events, especially the booze cruise. I know he's your brother, but this isn't just a hangout. It's our wedding. Dylan looked torn, but before he could speak, his mom cut in. We were at dinner with his parents, going over table placements. She didn't even let me finish. Sweetheart, Travis has had a hard year, she said. Losing his job, then his apartment. He's been trying. You can't exclude him from family events. That would just make things worse. But it's our wedding, I tried again. Shouldn't we be allowed to feel safe? To protect that space? Her eyes narrowed. You're marrying into this family. That means learning to embrace all of us, not just the convenient parts. I bit my tongue. Dylan didn't say a word. That night, I cried in the shower, not because of Travis, but because I realized something deeper, something heavier. No matter how much I loved Dylan, no matter how much we laughed or connected or dreamed together, I was marrying into more than just one man. I was marrying into his silences, his loyalty, his history, and worse, I was marrying into their excuses. The night before the wedding felt like magic. The kind that makes you forget the cracks, the tension, the quiet doubts curled up at the edge of your mind. Just for a few hours, everything shimmered. We were in Sonoma, surrounded by golden vineyards and autumn air crisp enough to make you reach for a jacket, but not enough to chill your bones. Dylan, his mom Linda, a longtime family friend named Sharon, and I decided to do a small bar crawl. It wasn't planned. That's what made it perfect. We laughed until our cheeks hurt. Linda danced with a stranger at the second bar. Dylan did an impromptu toast to future in-laws that feel more like old friends. And even I started to believe him. For the first time in months, I felt something loosen in my chest, something warm, easy, safe. Notably absent, of course, was Travis. He had declined the invite with a scoff. Tourist towns are scams, he'd muttered. Paying $15 for a shot? No thanks. No one pushed. No one argued. It was just expected. Like everything about Travis, his absence was somehow louder than his presence. But I didn't miss him. None of us did. When we stumbled back to the hotel, just past midnight, shoes in hand, arms looped around each other like we were kids at summer camp, I let myself imagine it. That maybe this family, flawed and complicated, still had space for joy, still had a version of us that didn't require walking on eggshells. I took a photo that night. Linda's lipstick was smudged from laughing too hard, Dylan's tie was around his head, and I was in the middle, beaming. Later, I'd stare at that photo longer than I should have, trying to freeze that version of us in time, the one where everything felt almost right. Because the next night, Travis would join us, and things would never feel that light again. The next evening, the sky turned the color of champagne. Everything was set. The ceremony had gone beautifully. Sunlight filtering through the vines, vows that made even the grumpiest uncle tear up, and Dylan's hand in mine like a promise he meant to keep. We were married. We were finally here. That night, we decided to recreate the magic. Booze Cruise Round 2. Only this time, Travis came along. He showed up late, again, wearing the same wrinkled shirt from 2 days ago and a pair of scuffed boots that didn't match anything. His hair was unbrushed. His breath smelled faintly of cheap beer and something medicinal. But he smiled like he belonged. Dylan, ever the bridge builder, clapped him on the back and said, "Glad you made it, man." I tried to smile too, tried to be gracious, tried to believe that maybe, this wouldn't be a mistake. We boarded the boat. It was smaller than the night before, more intimate. The sun dipped below the hills as glasses clinked and conversations hummed low and happy. But Travis didn't blend. He drank fast, aggressively. His first drink was on Dylan's tab. So was the second, then the third. I leaned over to Dylan. Did he bring any money? I whispered. Dylan looked uncomfortable. Mom gave him some cash, I think. But yeah, he might be charging a bit. The group started slowing down after the second round. Sharon opted for soda water. Linda switched to white wine. Dylan and I ordered sparkling cider, laughing about wanting to remember our wedding night. But Travis grew restless, antsy, like someone had turned down the volume on his chaos, and he didn't know how to sit in the quiet. You guys seriously tapping out already? He scoffed. Come on, it's a celebration. We've been celebrating all day, I said as kindly as I could. Travis rolled his eyes. What? Now we're too mature to party. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it, with bitterness, like our happiness was a personal insult. That's when I noticed something in his expression, not boredom, not even jealousy. It was resentment, the kind that simmers beneath years of failure and finally finds a target it can punch upward at. Me. And I realized too late that this night wouldn't end in laughter. The restaurant was beautiful. White tablecloths, soft lighting, the kind of place where every clink of a spoon feels intentional. We had a private corner, just the six of us. It should have been the calm after the storm, the final toast to a perfect day. I should have known better. We ordered waters to start. A server brought a small basket of warm bread, and we passed it around as if nothing had gone wrong on the boat. Dylan and I shared a look. We're almost there, it said. Just get through dinner. Travis was unusually quiet until the drink orders came around. I asked for a glass of Pinot Noir. Dylan got a cocktail. Sharon went for herbal tea. Linda declined alcohol altogether. Then Travis leaned back in his chair and said, loud enough for the next table to hear, I'll take a Jack and a beer. Separate glasses. There was a pause. Not long enough for protest. Just long enough for discomfort. The drinks arrived. We chatted about the ceremony. Dylan complimented the florist. Linda made a joke about tripping in heels. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Then Dylan picked up a paper straw wrapper, rolled it tightly, and flicked it across the table, landing it right in Travis's lap. Travis narrowed his eyes. Dylan laughed. Just returning the favor from last Christmas. Travis smirked, reached for his own straw, and flicked one back. Harmless. Then Dylan, grinning, flicked another. It hit Travis square in the chest. Soft. Silly. The kind of stupid thing brothers do. But Travis didn't laugh. He stood up slowly, lifted the glass of Jack, and said through clenched teeth, If I can't get you back, then don't fucking shoot me with a straw wrapper. And then he threw it. Hard. The glass spun across the table, crashed into the appetizer tray, and sent sauce, crumbs, and bourbon flying. A spray of amber hit my dress, dark and sudden, right across the lace. My heart stopped. No one moved. The restaurant went still. Travis stormed out, shoving past the waiter on his way. And there I was in a $1,000 gown, wearing whiskey and marinara sauce on my chest, wondering what hurt more, the sting of the liquid, or the way no one chased after him. Not Dylan, not Linda, not anyone. No one said that was wrong. They just sat there, like it had happened before, like they were waiting for someone else to clean up the mess. The next morning, I woke to the smell of burnt coffee and the tight ache of silence. Dylan had already left the room. The empty side of the bed was still warm, like he'd gotten up not long before. I sat up slowly, the events of the night before clinging to me like smoke. I hadn't cried. Not yet. The tears were there, suspended just behind my eyes, waiting for a crack. I checked my phone. A message from Dylan, downstairs with Mom. She wants to talk. Part of me didn't want to go, but some small, exhausted part of me still believed there might be a reckoning, an apology, an acknowledgement that what happened wasn't okay. I found them at a small cafe 2 blocks from the hotel. Linda looked tired, older than she had the night before. Dylan had both hands around a mug of tea. eyes fixed on the tabletop like it held answers he wasn't ready to face. I sat down. No one spoke for a moment. Then Linda said, "I'm sorry, Camille. I truly am. You didn't deserve that." I nodded but stayed quiet. I wanted her to keep going. And she did. She told us the rest of the story. What had happened after Travis stormed out of the restaurant. Apparently, he hadn't gone back to the hotel. He'd taken the cash she'd given him for souvenirs and small drinks and gone drinking alone at a dive bar on the edge of town. He got so drunk that the bartender called Linda's cell around 3 a.m. and told her, "Either you come get him, or we're calling the cops." So she got out of bed, woke Dylan's father, who has chronic back issues and needs a brace to walk. Together, they drove into the dark to pick up a 32-year-old man who couldn't stand straight. But he didn't get in the car. No. As they pulled up, Travis bolted on foot through a back alley. He fell, rolled his ankle, lost his shoes, dropped his phone. Eventually, they found him curled behind a dumpster, crying and incoherent. They got him into the car and brought him back to the hotel just before dawn. I stared at Linda. She didn't cry. She didn't look angry. She just looked used to it. "I'm sorry again," she said softly. "He's not a bad person. He just struggles." I didn't say anything for a long time. I just stirred the cream into my coffee, watching it swirl and disappear. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't shock, or even outrage. It was resignation. This wasn't an incident. This was a pattern. And worse, it was a pattern they had all learned to live with. We flew to Maui the day after. It was supposed to be paradise. Golden beaches, candlelit dinners, the kind of honeymoon you see in bridal magazines. But the truth is, I don't remember much of it. I remember the hotel was beautiful. I remember the waves made a soft, steady sound like a breath, trying to soothe me. I remember Dylan holding my hand on the balcony the first night and saying, "I'm sorry for what happened. I really am." But I also remember how hollow those words felt. Not because he didn't mean them, but because they weren't his to offer. He hadn't thrown the glass. He hadn't shouted. He hadn't vanished into the night. But he also hadn't stopped it. Hadn't said a word when Travis walked out. Hadn't stood up when everyone else sat frozen. I didn't need him to say sorry. I needed him to say, "That was wrong, and I won't pretend it wasn't." Instead, we fell into quiet routines. Sightseeing, room service, beach walks where we talked about everything except the one thing we couldn't outrun. At night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of that glass hitting the table echoed in my ears like a metronome. The weight of the whiskey on my dress still clung to my skin, even after I'd changed. I hadn't sent the dress to the cleaners. It hung in the back of the hotel closet, zipped inside a garment bag untouched. Not because I'd forgotten, but because I couldn't bring myself to unzip it. Every time I looked at it, I saw more than a stain. I saw a moment where no one stood up for me. I saw the invisible line I wasn't allowed to cross. Don't make a scene. Don't push back. Don't expect fairness if it costs someone else their comfort. And I saw a truth I hadn't wanted to admit. I hadn't just married Dylan. I'd married into his silence, into a system that protects the loudest voice in the room, even when that voice throws things, even when that voice leaves bruises you can't photograph. A week after we returned, I wrote Linda an email. It wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. It was calm, too calm maybe. I thanked her for the wedding gift. I said I appreciated how she tried to keep things together that night. Then I said what I hadn't been able to say in person. I need you to understand how that night felt for me. Not just the glass, or the stain, or the silence, but what it meant to watch everyone stay seated. What it meant to know that no one, not even you, said, "That was wrong." I told her I wasn't looking for drama. I wasn't demanding anything. Just clarity. Just one person to say out loud what I had carried alone for days. She replied the next morning. For lines. "I'm sorry you felt that way. Travis is going through a difficult time. And when you marry someone, you marry into their family. It's not always easy, but it's part of the commitment. I stared at the screen for a long time. I read it twice, 3 times. The apology wasn't really an apology. It was a redirection, a dismissal wrapped in politeness. And that last line, "You marry into their family," it hit me harder than I expected, because what it really meant was, you chose this. So now, stay quiet and accept it. But I didn't choose Travis. I didn't choose his tantrums, his rage, or the trail of broken moments he left behind. I didn't choose to sit at a table and pretend a whiskey-soaked wedding dress was just another accident. I chose Dylan. I chose love. And maybe that choice came with baggage. But I never agreed to carry it in silence. I never replied to Linda's email. Not because I was angry, but because I was done. Done justifying. Done absorbing. Done playing hostess to other people's chaos. I packed away the dress that afternoon, folded it neatly, stain and all, and placed it in a sealed box in the back of the closet. Not to forget it, but to stop fighting with it. Sometimes I wonder, was I too harsh? Should I have given that family another chance? Or is drawing a line the only way to keep yourself from drowning in someone else's mess? Tell me if it were you. Would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have walked away too?